We're all clear, but there'll be more. Echo 7, how's the transmission?
I just bypassed security. Transferring to R10 now.
Echo 2, we've got company. Let's make this quick.
Copy, Echo 9. R10, get ready for transmission. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we are going to be discussing Bad Batch, Season 3, Episode 4. We're getting closer to the finale. I know we still got like 11 more episodes, but we're getting there. But before we get into the episode, just jump down into the description below to find our link tree. You can find our Instagram, our Discord, and a lot of cool merch. So let's get into the episodes. I thought it was gonna be like another little filler episode, but I think this season they're going to be there might be some more filler episodes, but I think it's gonna be more story directed.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Judging how the first now 4 episodes have been, each one has a specific plot and story to it. It's not just thrown in for the sake of it.
Yeah, because this episode just strongly gave me the feeling that this whole season is going to revolve around Tantus. And so we're going to be seeing a lot more of Hemlock. So I think he's going to be like the main villain of the season. I mean, we kind of already figured that with the first few episodes, but I feel we're going to probably get him almost every episode, like a little scene, or every other episode.
Yeah. I still don't like him. I mean, as a character, which is kind of good because he's the way that he's played. Again, you know, in this episode, which we'll get into.
So you mean you don't like him at all, or they do so well with the character that you hate him?
That one, they do so well with him that I don't like him. It's not like an Omega type thing where I didn't like her as a character. With Hemlock, I don't like him because of how he's like
how well he's played and written. Yeah, that's kind of like, I really like him as a villain. Like, he pisses me off, especially like because you can see he is not going to stop hunting, and it's like we said in the last episodes, it's not gonna end well. And it's very interesting because he confronts Nala Se, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just you know, Omega kind of escaped last episode and took Crosshair with her. I mean, but he uses his number. I didn't bother to remember it." And she's like, "Oh wow, that's very surprising." He's like, "Really?" And he starts to get in on her plan. He's like, "Okay, well, all the ones you tested, why they've always been false, but now Emery tested one, and it came out positive. So something's going on here."
Yeah, I mean, I liked Nala Se's reply to that was, you know, that it could just be a false positive.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is a good way to cover one's tracks.
Yeah, so you can tell that she was thinking this out way before this even got. Yeah, because she's trying so well to cover her tracks, and Hemlock's just like, yes, that makes sense, but I'm not stupid. So we're going to get Omega back, and we're going to see where this goes. And just so you know, your future is not set in stone now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of know the fate of Nala Se anyway.
Yeah, I think she's gonna be gone.
Yeah, which is a shame because I really like what they've done with her so far in season 3. Like, it's just I don't know what it is, but every character, including Omega, which, you know, I'm glad I'm sat down to say this because I never thought I would. is well written, and like each are playing their part. And I think it's because it is the final season that they're all sort of driven by whatever goal they may have. Which at the moment, Nala say protecting Omega. Omega is doing what she does best.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I really like about good writers is because you can take an unlikable character in the first season, give them a whole character development arc, and make them a little better by each season to where you see that character growth. And so I think the writers are doing really well with how they're going with things.
Definitely.
And especially with Hemlock. And I'll say, like, I wanted to like Emery, but I hate her as much as Hemlock now. She's definitely more forgone than Crosshair was.
Yeah.
Like, there's no wiggle room at all. It's like no emotion.
Yes, yeah. I would say that Emery's the only character that I'm on the fence about, because part of me is thinking, yeah, she's there being the quote in air quotes bad guy, but
yeah,
I think that she might turn good towards the end and actually help her sister.
I'm kind of hoping not, though. And the only reason for it is because that seems to be a common character arc, and sometimes I like the characters just to stay exactly who you think they are.
Yeah.
So I'd be okay with her just being the scientist and she takes over Nala Se's projects. And the other thing with Nala Se, I think she might be done for, or they're going to break her so bad that she's either going to go crazy or she's working out of fear.
Yeah. But I think that I think she's another character that probably won't make it out of this season alive.
No, I think she's the last Kaminoan, isn't she? Because didn't they get rid of all the other cloners, or just that? It might have just been that one city. So there might be more Kaminoans, but they're known for the cloning. So
yeah,
I'd imagine that Palpatine wants to be the only one with the technology now, because he doesn't want a surprise army showing up like he did to the Jedi in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I mean, it's got me hooked. From the first episode of this season to now, we talked about it last time, and my theories about who makes it out alive and who doesn't. But
yeah,
I'm still like, even though that's what I would like to happen, it's got me hooked. I'm literally like every Wednesday, because that's when it gets released, that each episode gets released over here.
Yeah, same here.
I'm there and I'm like, I want the next episode now. Like, I don't want to wait. I just want it.
Especially with the end of this episode, which we'll get into a little bit later. This one left on a really solid cliffhanger.
Yes.
And all the build up to that is kind of fluff for me, but it's necessary fluff. Because when they first showed the episode and they just introduced the whatchamacallit, Crosshair and Omega, like when I was looking at the picture for today's episode, it's a picture of Hunter and Wrecker. So I was like, okay, so we're just gonna have an episode about Wrecker and Hunter, and the whole episode was about Omega and Crosshair, and which makes sense because you got to tie you kind of figured that their stories would tie in somehow, and so we need to know what's going on with Crosshair and Omega before they even get to Hunter and Wrecker. Like, we already know their story. They're looking for Omega. Like, we already know what they're doing, so we don't need to see their side of things. And I was thinking when they're coming in, I'm like, they need to ditch that shit, because wouldn't they be able to track it? But I guess maybe on that shuttle they couldn't, because Crosshair makes a reference later to the new ship that they get, because instead they have to ditch it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they crashed this one anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to start the episode, though. Seeing the ship that they had stolen basically coming in for a crash landing. Although that annoyed me, because a crash at that speed should have killed them both.
It's Star Wars, man. They probably got.
I know.
They probably got special protections that don't make sense to the natural world.
Yeah, but I mean,
we see crash ships all the time. I mean, let's be real. Anakin and Obi-Wan and Palpatine coming on a cruise ship, half of the ship, mind you.
But at least that was able to be slowed down, because that still had some of the air brakes and everything. Whereas the ship,
but no seatbelts.
That is true, but you don't really see seatbelts in many sci-fi things. Which
I mean,
that is weird.
That's right. I mean, if they're getting shot at, they got to get up pretty quick to get to the guns, you know?
Yeah.
Those couple seconds trying to unhook a seatbelt could mean life or death. So no seatbelts in space.
Yeah.
However, when they did crash, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, another happy landing.
I will admit that came straight across my mind as well.
Yeah, there's just a lot of quotes that I think fans just automatically, when they see something, it just kind of just jumps in their head without even thinking.
Yeah.
And that's how quotable the prequels are, and it's pretty hilarious. And I was even thinking, like, imagine if they stole Palpatine's ship, and then they sit there and crash it. You know, Palpatine would be like, "All right, we're sending the entire fleet after these guys." So Hemlock got lucky that they left after Palpatine was already leaving the facility.
Yeah, because that would be. I mean, Hemlock would be sort of killed straight away by Palpatine for letting prisoners escape.
Yeah,
and it would just go downhill from there.
Yeah, and I mean, it would be kind of cool to see the Palpatine's anger on somebody other than Luke for once, but maybe we'll see more of Palpatine at some point. I'm curious if he might be in the finale, and just based off our predictions from last episode, he might be coming back to oversee things, and it might end that way, which would be kind of very, very interesting. It'd be a nice little terrifying end. They capture Omega, Palpatine's chilling at the facility, and he just gets that little creepy smile on his face. And then it ends. Boom. Project Necromancer.
I can see that. I can actually see that as well. When you was describing it to me just now, I was literally picturing it in my head, thinking, "Wow, that would look so cool."
Yeah, no, I was actually visioning it as I was saying it too, and I was like, anything with Palpatine is cool. Like, I don't care. I love Vader. I love like some of the other Sith Lords, but Palpatine, he's just so ominous. And just the way he speaks, the way he's dressed, the way he moves, the way he thinks. Like, I'm pretty sure I don't know how it is now, but I know in some of the polls over the years, over the last couple decades, Palpatine has been one of either number one or in the top 10 of villains.
Yeah.
Over Vader. Vader does make it to the list, but Palpatine, it's just because you factor in how calculated he is on everything.
Yeah. I mean, we said it last time as well, that, how far back has Palpatine been planning, the Project Necromancer? Because if we take into account the Death Star plans that were in Attack of the Clones, yes, Palpatine was a Sith Lord then, but he wasn't wasn't the Emperor. He had no power to speak of. So it really is a case of how far has he planned these things.
And it's very interesting because this is like the closest a Sith can get to the Force Ghost. Because being a Sith, you can't be a Force Ghost. And so this is kind of like a very distorted and very warped version of the Jedi's becoming one with the Force. And the Sith are like, no, we're going to prolong our physical form. And the Jedi are like, no, get rid of the physical form. We're more powerful as a energy, or however you want to call them. I know Force Ghost, but I'm not exactly sure how everybody describes them, but I see it's just like energy because they're not physical.
Yeah, it's the whole like Sith Jedi thing is always going to interest me. In their sort of beliefs, and I mean, just to sort of digress, that because it's us, the Jedi Council and the prophecy, up until the point where more and more Jedi sort of are found to have survived Order 66, but really it was that the prophecy was completed by Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, because the Jedi Order was basically wiped away. I know a lot of people have issues with like Jedi showing up, but I mean, it makes sense. Like, you can't imagine every Jedi was killed during Order 66.
Yeah.
The Jedi Order was destroyed for sure. But with Kenobi going out and saying, hey, run, get out of here. It's like, we're done here. And it's like, go live to die another day. And it only makes sense that there are still Jedi running around. And with stories like Cal Kestis, and then you look at the comics, there's Jedi that weren't even working with clones during Order 66, and that they were doing science expeditions and stuff, as we see Vader go hunt down a Jedi, kill him, take his crystal, and turn it into his red crystal.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are like, nah, Jedi still surviving. To me, it makes sense. Just like our group here in the show, the Bad Batch, it's like, yeah, we got some clones that are still running around too. Like, not all of them got terminated after.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way, again, sort of another good comparison with every other Star Wars thing that's happening at the same time. There are always people that survive.
Yeah, and it was Luke's destiny to complete the whole reunification of the Jedi and to take down the Empire, because nobody else could. Like, even Yoda probably could have done it, but as we see in Clone Wars, he notices that, he sees that it's not his place to do it. Things need to happen for the Force to be healed or whole again.
Yeah, I mean, that with the Star Wars universe as a whole, it's very centric on characters like the Emperor, Vader, the Skywalkers, as both Anakin pre-Vader and obviously post, and Luke.
Yeah.
And then to have characters like the Bad Batch that were introduced in the Clone Wars as sort of, were they called failed clones, or
no, these ones were altered. That's why they have like those like special abilities and stuff. That's why they call them the Bad Batch.
To have these characters that you wouldn't have necessarily thought would even exist. Now you care about what's going on with them. It's such, it does show how well written now Star Wars has become. I mean, like we said, the opening scene is of the stolen ship crashing, and then we go on from there with Omega and Crosshair. It becomes, yes, it's another Omega Crosshair story, but it fits in with everything else that's going on at the same time. That there's still the ramifications of the previous episodes. It's not a standalone thing. It's telling the final story of the Bad Batch, and
giving you closure on the clones too, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, where'd the clones go after 4066? Because we know the stormtroopers aren't clones.
Yeah.
And so we're getting that closure here.
Yeah, and then the tie-ins with the Emperor and Project Necromancer as well.
Mm-hmm. Setting up for the sequels.
Yeah, it's all tying in, but it's like we've said it already. It's in ever so subtle ways that to the average viewer, they might on mentioning say Project Necromancer, it might be, I remember them saying that somewhere, but they could, some people might not be able to remember where, but they know it's been said, and they know that it's tying into something, which is great. It's a great.
Even Battlefront 2, the storyline kind of hinted at the return of Palpatine there as well, not in so much detail, but it was foreshadowed in that game. I don't think they called it Project Necromancer at that point, though.
I'm gonna have to look into that one after recording, because I don't.
Have you played the storyline on that one?
Briefly.
With what's her name? I can't think of her name. The TIE fighter pilot that goes good.
Yeah, I know. I
think it's Ida something.
Storyline.
Her name is Iden.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole Battlefront 2 thing was a good storyline as well. It's weird because like take out the movies, the sequel movies, and the writing for other Star Wars projects is so good. It's just the movies have let them down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Disney seems to like hit heavy on their own characters and kind of disappoint with like characters we're familiar with. But you go to the comics, Vader is written so well in the comics. Like he's literally as powerful as he should be. Like you've probably seen this one go around a lot with what Vader's ship is down and he's got this whole rebel squadron around him, and the quote that he said, they're like, all right, surrender, you're surrounded. And Vader retorts like, I'm only surrounded by fear and dead men. And then proceeds to kill every single one of them.
Yeah, there's one comics, one of the Vader comics that really stands out to me. And that's where the Emperor, again, because, everything has the Emperor in it. He took Vader's mechanical limbs and just kind of left him for dead, basically. And Vader took droid parts to make new limbs.
Yeah.
And then became just a badass. And it's like, that's the Vader. If the original trilogy was made now, that would be the Vader that we would get.
Yeah. And they do really well on picking up on storylines. Like, how did Vader know about Luke? How did he know he was a Skywalker? And what was going on inside Vader's head? Like, the moment he sends Boba Fett to find out who blew up the Death Star, finds out the name is Skywalker, he finds out, it's like, okay, this is my kid. I thought he was that didn't even know he existed. And so it changes his whole thought process. And he ends up wanting to overthrow the Emperor and now take over the galaxy with Luke. And then that's when we get Empire Strikes Back. It's like, together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. And then it explains a lot of like things of like, well, how do you know? And before, like, we didn't care because we just kind of assumed, okay, it's Vader. And some of these questions we just never even thought to ask, just because it made sense at the time. But it's cool that we're getting more backstory in the comics. So yes, the movies are a letdown, but we get other cool content that kind of describes it a little bit better.
Hypothetically speaking, if the Bad Batch or some of the Bad Batch survive, would you be open and happy to see them return in comic book form?
Yeah, I would. Because I mean, at this point, because we're invested in these characters, so if they somehow survive, it's just like Rex and Cody. Like, I want to see more of them. And since they survived, I would like to see what they're up to. And we're getting a little bit of that in the Bad Batch. And it's really cool to see that Cody got redeemed. Because after Attack of the Clone or Revenge of the Sith, everybody hated Cody. In a good way. And I was like, man, Cody's a jerk. Why couldn't he be more like Rex? And then now we had Cody in last season, and Cody's like, all right, well, maybe Order 66 wasn't the best thing.
Yeah. Which then brings us quite nicely to the conflict that Crosshair's having, even in this episode. Because he's escaped, but he's still doubting basically everything.
He doesn't know what to believe at this point. Like, knows the Empire is not his place. The best thing he's got right now is Omega, and even he's conflicted with her. He's kind of taking on Hunter's role right now, but he's a little bit more stern, because Omega is like, okay, well, all right, let's get ourselves adjusted and situated, and then we got to go back to Tantus. And CH is like, whoa, we're not going back there. And we kind of get the little annoying Omega that we've seen in the past, who's like, well, we got to go back because all the other prisoners. It's like, how do you plan on doing that? For one. Two, the whole point is to leave that place and not go back.
I can't believe I'm going to say this again, but I never found that line to be annoying. I thought it was Omega doing what she should be doing, which is saving others instead of having everyone save her. And I kind of, it made me appreciate the character even more. Which, you know, as we both know, I was not the biggest Omega fan at all.
Yeah.
But now, like, you know, with that line and how it's weird because she's still holding on to hope. But at the same
and maybe that's supposed to be her role in this whole thing, is being the positive hope while everybody else has lost sight of happiness and all that.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that she's very much, I mean, we said it last time again, you know, she's the sort of counterpart to Crosshairs, who's, you know, it's yin and yang.
Yeah, she's tugging at him, and it's really funny because Crosshair just wants to go into the spaceport and start shooting everywhere, and she's like, whoa, let's try it differently. And she's like, I've done this before. And so she goes up, and I just thought it was funny that she fails miserably. The spaceport lady's like, well, since you're trying to bribe me, 15,000 per ticket. And Crosshair's like, it'd be so much easier just to go in and shoot everybody than to try and find 30,000 credits.
Yeah, wasn't it something like, as they were walking away, didn't he say something like, well, that went well, and Omega was just like,
yeah,
shut up.
yeah.
and I mean, again, it makes me appreciate Omega more because she's not crying out for help from Hunter or Wrecker. You know,
No, but she's like, I don't want to hurt anybody either. And it's like, it's the Empire. Who cares if you hurt the Empire?
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, that's still a nice thing to see in her, that even after everything that she's been put through, you know, since being captured by the Empire, she doesn't want to hurt the Empire, as, you know, or she doesn't want to hurt anyone, really.
But she's willing to hustle somebody's money.
Yeah, but that's fine. And I mean, that was, I enjoyed watching that scene as well, because, you know, she was playing the kid part, like, you know, the naive kid that doesn't know anything, and then she just walks away with or tries to walk away with all that money.
Yeah, until you get the stupid captain that comes in and it's like, hey, let's play. You're just a kid. I insist that we play.
What did you think to the captain as a character?
Say one more time, I apologize.
What did you think to the captain as a character?
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because you get to see the little bit of corruptness from the Empire, because they're just sitting there having a chill little game. And once the Empire walks in, you know it's not going to go well, especially when he decides he wants to sit down with her. And you can kind of see that he's the guy that comes in and it's like, okay, pay me my money. Like, he's kind of portraying the Empire like we know them to be, is like the bullies. And so he thinks he can swindle some money out of the kids, and he doesn't care. It's like, it's just a kid. Like, no remorse. Like, he doesn't even hold back. And then she ends up winning, and I'm just like, yeah, this isn't going to go well. He's going to get really petty. And didn't surprise me on how his response was.
Yeah. When the captain walked in and was basically being given, it came across as like he was being given bribe money to, you know, to keep the establishment open. And you know, and then he played with Omega, and it was the commentary of, you know, that it looks like the captain's going to win the game, but then Omega wins, and it kind of stuns him, and then he admits defeat and, you know, says well played and all of that stuff, and then just becomes a complete dick. And that's where the bully side comes out, where, you know, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's illegal to gamble on this planet, so we're going to fine you or you're going to prison. And it's like, but you just played the game. So are you making this rule up now because you lost and you want some money back?
Hence why I said he became very petty. The Empire doesn't let stuff like that go. They're like, we don't like being bested and we don't like being humiliated.
Yeah. And then stealing Batcher was not on.
Yeah, and at this point, they also spot the down ship and realize it's a shuttle, and things start getting pieced together. And stupid little kid, like, oh yeah, I know where their animal went. I know who took them, but you got to pay me. It's like, kid, you're gonna swindle 5,000 credits, exactly what they have extra. Like, for once, I'd like to see a show that doesn't ask for the exact amount that they have extra.
Yeah.
Like, he did say 10,000 at first, but then he dropped down to 5,000. I'm just like, just go like down to 1,000 or 2,000. Let's not make it so convenient.
Yeah, see, I agree. I hate it when it's just the exact amount that is spare or that a character's won in a game. It always annoys me no matter what it's in. If it's the exact amount, it's like, no, come on. Like it could be anything. They could have, the kid could have said 50,000 and then could have been negotiated down to 1,000 or something. But for it to be,
let alone a kid, like a kid doesn't really have a big concept of value on money, especially the kid looked like he was too young to understand that concept, but still asked for a high amount.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the kid gonna do with it is the question. Because, like, from what you see of that planet, there's not really much to do, unless he's gonna buy food and
pay rent.
Yeah, and then if that's the case, it's let's blame the captain for being so tight and a bully.
Yeah, because that the circumstances are bad because of the Empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they do find that Batcher's taken by the jerk of a captain.
Yes. Yeah. After paying the kid, but I mean, just one more thing on the kid. At least he told them the information and was correct.
Yeah, that is true.
Normally, it's like if a character demands that much money, they'll then normally just give wrong information anyway because they've got what they want. But it was nice to see
they held up their word.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Batch has been taken by the captain, and then it goes.
Doesn't surprise me that the captain did that though. It's like he's petty, so he wanted that animal out of there anyways.
Yeah.
But my thoughts going on was like, I really hope Badger doesn't become a issue the whole time. And this is where we get to see a little bit more character development with Crosshair, because we have Omega's like, okay, well, we got to go rescue him now. Crosshair's like, no, what we need to do is get off this planet. And she just takes the bag of money and throws at him. It's like, okay, fine, you want to leave, go, but I'll figure something else out. And honestly, if I was Crosshair, I'd be like, okay, peace. I'm not going against the Empire. But you can see that he's struggling right there, and he's like, I really don't want to do this, but fine.
Yeah.
And so he ends up helping her, which Crosshair would not have done that season 1.
But
because he even makes a mention, he's like, my skills are being wasted here.
Yeah. I mean, does that then go hand in hand though with the yin and yang thing, where both characters are sort of balancing each other out?
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying that fact that Crosshair, while hesitant and wants to get off the planet fast, he does the right thing.
And you see that there's a little bit of respect that he has towards her, because instead of him playing, oh, I'm the adult here, we're doing what I say, or I'm pulling rank, we're doing what I'm saying, he's actually letting her call shots and kind of take the leadership role, or at least letting her try it out.
Yeah.
Because he'll question things if he's going to push. Like, even when they're like going to go steal Palpatine's ship, he's like, nope, we're not doing that. That's even beyond my skills. And then we come to this place and he's like, okay, now my skills are being wasted here. And she sees all the animals. It's like, oh, we got to rescue them all. And he's like, don't push it. And so I like their banter, the way that they interact with each other, because it is that yin and yang dynamic. Yeah. There is a good balance for them.
I loved the line where Omega and Crosshair have got to where Batcher is, and they see, you know, all the Empire people, and Omega,
where they ambush him.
Yeah, and
he's like, "Oh,
we're all right. Now we're doing it your way." And it's that mutual respect again, where, you know, previously Crosshair did what Omega said, and now Omega's flipped it to do what Crosshair wants to do.
Yeah, because he knows that they're going to be stuck with Hemlock now because he's on his way. Captain Man just took all the credits and it's like, you're not going to need this once Hemlock is here. And the way that Crosshair responded to Omega right after that made me laugh because he's like, finally.
Like, he's been waiting for this.
Yeah, he's like, all right, we're done playing your games. Now we're doing it my way. It's about time. And then all the animals get free and kind of become a convenient distraction and help.
Yeah.
So Omega gets her way while Crosshair gets his way. Because I do believe on the what you call it? Because when Omega uses the control panel at the spaceport, I think it said on the screen in Arbesh said unlocking all cargo, and so it's funny how they actually use Arabesh in the Star Wars universe. Like, I know it's the natural language, but it's cool how they use it for random things in the shows.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that it's like if you learn Arabesh, you can actually sit there and read stuff that's going on in the background. And it's just not conveniently in English for the viewer.
But for me, I love that fact, because if everything was in English, it will be like a lot of other sci-fi shows. You know, it would be like Doctor Who or Star Trek, where conveniently everything is in English. Having a universe with its own language that isn't written in English, to me, just makes it that so much better.
Yeah, agreed.
But I have to say, though, the jerk captain got what he deserved.
Yup, the Rathtar got him. So for those of you that didn't know what creature was in it, that was a Rathtar that pulled him in, and I'm assuming he died.
I think, despite what we said about
no body, no death.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that, you know, because that crate locked up pretty quick once the captain was dragged in there. I don't think he's coming back.
Getting at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he dropped his gun on his way out too, and I don't even think how effective blaster fire would be on a creature like that, being it so big, unless he was precise with a lot of his shots. And being flailed around by a Rathtar, he's no Crosshair.
He doesn't look like the kind of guy that would be proficient in shooting anyway. You know, because he was quite portly, you know, quite well off. Or
it's like your managers.
He's fat.
It's like your managers at work that they're just like, oh yeah, well, we used to be good, but we were so used to being standing around doing nothing that our skills are kind of lost. So we're just really good at supervising and telling people what to do now. But when it comes to when it really matters, my skills are rusty.
Yeah.
I've become so fat with the lifestyle that I'm not as good as I used to be. And that's what this guy gave. That's the persona that this guy gave off.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to charge him another fine. He's like, yeah, well, there's no license for the animal. There's another fine. It's like, bro. So another Empire dude that I just did not like, because they wrote him to be such a grotesque human being. That's like, okay, now I'm starting to realize why people hate the Empire, because they haven't really pushed the Empire mentality like this too much. Even in Andor, they haven't. We get the ISB, and we get a little bit of their torture stuff, but this is a little bit more of the bully side of the Empire and what they're doing when they occupy planets.
Yeah, and it does add that extra layer of, again, character building, but on a sort of mass scale. Because you are right, we don't see that side of the Empire, because it's, in the movies it's always concentrated on Vader and the Emperor. In other shows, like, if we take Obi-Wan, that's concentrating on Vader and Obi-Wan and that relationship. So to have this side of the Empire being seen, it kind of humanizes them in the way that on some planets the Empire is just going to be, a sort of generic high school bully.
Yeah.
Because they can.
Because who's going to challenge them?
Yeah.
It's like, even in Rebels, we don't get that too much. We kind of get the dark side, but I mean, it's more of them chasing. It's more of the military side rather than occupation of a planet.
Yeah. Because I mean, with Rebels as well, because they sort of jump from place to place, whereas with the Bad Batch, especially, again this season, it's focusing while they are jumping from planet to planet, it's very much grounded in reality as well. Mm-hmm. Where there are, for an animated show, for me to say this is weird sounding, but there are the real life connotations there, and mm-hmm. and it's hard to say, but it is very much a humanizing the Empire type thing now, which
because even in Andor we had that one general or commander that had his family with him.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that they're taking these humanizing things, like, okay, the Empire is this big force in the galaxy, but the individual people are still people.
Yeah.
And they'll abuse their power just like anybody else, because that's what they're looking for. Like, these are the type of people that want to be in command and be over other people just for this abuse of power.
Yeah, that's I think that's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, because the Empire is just full of those type of people. Like, if you're part of the Empire, there's a reason you're part of the Empire, and there's a reason why these other people aren't. Like, even take the Rebellion. Like, they're not taking leadership roles for the sake of power. They're doing it because they need structure and organization to take down the Empire. Like, even Han Solo, when he went from smuggler to General Solo, he wasn't a power hungry guy. He just fell in and it's like, okay, all right, this is my role, let's go. And take on Endor. Like, he was fighting with them. Whereas you'll never see the Empire fight with their men unless they're forced to, like this situation. Or unless you're Vader with the Force and stuff. Vader's all too eager to get into a fight because he knows there's no danger.
Yeah.
But generally, the captains and commanders are a little bit more cowardice.
Yeah, they are the last ones on the battlefield, and even then, it's almost like they would have to be, pushed to do it. They're mm-hmm. great at taunting people, like we see in this episode, where
you can dish it out, but you can't take it.
Exactly.
So it was very, very fitting to see this captain get his end by a sequel creature. again, sequels are here to stay, guys. We're getting creatures from the movies, so learn to love them, I guess. Just kidding, but
the only sequel that I'm still not fond of is
Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little digression here, but a couple of my buddies came here last night. Echo 3, one of the earlier co-hosts, he came with a couple of friends, and I showed him a picture of my Last Jedi poster that I have up on the wall. He's like, "Oh, take that trash down! Take that trash down!" I'm like, that's my prized possession, bro. I got that at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, and it got signed by Mark Hamill. So I'm like, that's the only reason that poster's up and framed.
I mean, thing is though, just while we're on the Last Jedi side of things, it's very much like the prequels, where there are some parts which just work really well. Like a lot of people didn't like the Kylo Ren Luke fight. I
actually didn't mind that fight. I just didn't like how Luke was like this most powerful Jedi, but he does this one act and then he has to die.
See, I liked that to a degree, because I mean, obviously Carrie Fisher was still alive at this time, so you know the plan could have been different for her character had she not passed away.
Right.
But I think, Luke, you can kind of tell by this point Luke's done anyway. He knows he's made mistakes. So to have this one final act that kind of just drains his life away, it kind of is fitting for the character of Luke, which I don't think many people kind of can see or get. But to me, it's like, Luke's always there to try and do the right thing. He wanted to turn Vader back to the light side,
but kill his nephew in his sleep.
Bit misguided, but then but from that point you can see the damage that has done on Luke. So for him to do this one final thing, this one final act, it was, to me, it felt very fitting.
All right, so I'm gonna bring you, when we cover The Last Jedi, I think I'm gonna have you as a co-host, since you have this contrasting view than I do. So that'll be a fun discussion for sure. Definitely. We'll have to fit that in once we hit the end of our schedule. Because I think the last thing we did was the prequels, and I think we are about to hit the originals and then go into the sequels and then the spinoffs. So all right, that's gonna be a lot of fun discussion then. I look forward to hearing your views on that one. Yeah. So back to our little crew here.
Yeah. So obviously Omega and Crosshair managed to steal yet another ship.
Yeah, they're becoming very good at stealing Empire ships. And then this is what I was talking about earlier, like Crosshair's like, yeah, this one they're gonna be able to track. Maybe not the last one, but this one they can, so we gotta ditch it quick. And I love how hopeful Omega is, because again, the yin and yang right here. She's like, oh yeah, I sent a decoded message to or I sent a coded message to Hunter and Wrecker, and so we're gonna head to this remote location and hopefully they're there. And Crosshair's like, it's been months, so they could be dead. And it's just those contrasting views of them. Omega's like, oh yeah, let's go hang out with them. Crosshair's like, well, they could be dead too.
Yeah, I actually liked that interaction because, again, the yin and yang side of things, but it also it gave the time jump a better frame as well. So we know roughly where
that is true, yeah,
from previous events. But I think hearing Crosshair say that, he's very much hesitant anyway, because we don't know how
they're going to react to him.
Yeah. And so he's kind of like, could I just be killed on sight for, betraying my brothers? Or,
he's just hoping they're dead then. He's just like, he'd rather than die than to face them. And
well, that's how it came across to me, was very much that, where it sounded, while remorseful, there was that hint of hope where he doesn't want any more fighting with them.
Yeah, because especially when they get down there, like, you see the ship down there, and Omega's all excited and happy. First person to come out is Wrecker, and Wrecker's like, "Oh, I thought the message was a fake, but we came anyways." And then I kind of expected Hunter to be one of the first ones to come out, but he kind of hung back a little bit and let Wrecker do his thing, and then he comes out. And such a lovely reunion. And then that question is proposed: is, we're happy to see you, but how'd you get out? How'd you survive? How'd you get out? Oh, I had help. Oh, who helped you? And we have Crosshair, who just held himself back in the ship, didn't let himself be seen until this moment, and then you just see their eyes lock, and you can see I'm not going to say the word hate with Hunter and Wrecker, but you can see they were mad, and they didn't know how to feel.
I got a lot of tension from the characters,
both sides of them.
Yeah, and Omega's kind of there, and she's not exactly in the middle, but she is at the same time, because she's befriended Crosshair. She's brought Crosshair back
to the group
from the proverbial dark side. But the way that whole scene played out with Crosshair and Hunter and Wrecker was very much reminiscent to me of the on the bit on Mustafar in Revenge of the
Sith.
Yeah, where Obi-Wan's there, and you've got Anakin and Padme, and they lock eyes, and I mean, we all know how that one ended. So hopefully this one won't end as bad.
I don't think so, because Crosshair got to go do what he felt was right, and he got to follow the path, even though the path he chose wasn't the right one. But he takes that path anyways, and he comes to the end of that road and realizes, okay, that wasn't the way to go. And now he's back with his group, and I think he wants to be with them again because it's his team, and they know him better than the Empire would ever. And I think he's just not sure how he's going to be accepted back in because of what he's done. And Omega is going to be that key factor between them. So I'm expecting the next episode to be full of tension, and that's why I said they left it on such a big cliffhanger, because I really wanted to know the interaction now. But maybe it's smart to leave it for the next episode, so it's not something that's just glossed over and it's like, okay, yeah, welcome back. But I guarantee they're gonna take him back. Either that or, well, no, because they're ditching the shuttle or the ship, so Crosshair's definitely going with them. But forgiveness, I don't think is going to come too quick in this episode.
I think maybe Wrecker might be the one to forgive quicker,
just because of his childlike mentality.
Yeah, and I think maybe Omega might have a hand in that as well. But I think Hunter's going to be the harder persuasion.
I think the biggest factor will be because he helped Omega, and that's already showing a change of habit. So I think that's going to be one of the deciding factors. Is okay, you showed your face, one, so good for you being an adult, being mature, and two, you saved Omega from this thing because we never stopped searching for her, and here we are. We failed, but you didn't. Even though he gave up on himself quite a lot in that little cell. So I mean, Omega's the one that essentially escaped with the help of Nalase. But she wouldn't have been able to be successful if it wasn't for Crosshair.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that we wasn't treated to 2 episodes this time. I'm glad it was just that it was left off there because, you know, like we said last time, 1, 2, and 3 kind of tied in all together and could be played at the same time. And it was great to see how that ended. And then, you know, with the shuttle just jumping into hyperspace. And then for this episode, the opening of the shuttle, still on fire, still, you know, running out of power. And then we get to the ending with that cliffhanger, with the tension. You know, it could be a standoff. You know, there could be blasters, you know, blaster fire straight away. But I'm glad that it was left as the singular this time, because it makes me want the next episode more.
Yeah, it is like a really good cliffhanger because this is something we've been waiting for like the last 2 seasons. Like end of season 1, they extended their hand and said, "Come with us," and he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna wait for the Empire to come pick me up." Okay, all right, you made your choice, and then we're at this point where it's like, okay, we'll come back. Maybe, I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally one of those times where it could go in multiple different ways and very fast.
Just leave them on that planet with that shuttle, and it's like, well, go ditch it somewhere else and survive on your own. We're out of here.
Yeah.
But Hunter and Wrecker don't come across those type of characters, though. And especially with Omega would be pushing them to do the right thing. So if Omega wasn't there, things probably would be less predictable.
Yeah. I mean, that is the one downside, is that we can basically guarantee that because of Omega being there, Crosshair's going to be, you know, happily back on board the Marauder.
Yeah.
But there's always that chance of, what if they just fly off without him? And, you know, there's every bit of chance as the series progresses that if they do leave Crosshairs behind, Omega could be that nagging voice to Hunter and Wrecker to say, why did you leave him behind? We've got to find him.
Right.
And I'm genuinely open to whatever happens now, because it's gripped me.
Yeah, and I'm open to Crosshair returning because I've been predicting that since the beginning, that he was going to have his redemption arc. That from the beginning was very predictable to me. So I enjoyed the story up to it and kind of got to see that they got to write his character in a believable way, and it wasn't just a quick change of heart. It's like, no, this has been a process. Because I even wrote it in my notes. I was like, when I'm like, okay, when he was talking to Omega, it's like, oh yeah, they could be dead and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, he's still thinking negative, but baby steps.
Yeah.
So, pretty good episode. I'm really excited for the next episode.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like I really can't, and it will be interesting to see how the next episode opens up.
Yeah, well, we got a few more days and it'll be out.
That's not soon enough. I want it.
No, definitely not.
I want it now. So obviously, we mentioned Hemlock, and he arrives on the planet.
Yeah, because there's only 2 scenes with him in this episode. It's kind of easy to forget the other one that he was in.
Yeah, because it was kind
but it's
of
very
like
important.
It was one of those scenes where it was so non-consequential, but has so many consequences at the same time. It's like a paradox, really.
Mm-hmm.
But so he arrives on the planet and he's pissed at this point.
Yes.
And I mean, basically, he's now saying that that's it. We're going to find Omega.
Yeah. Alert all of the operatives. He's like, we are going to use the full resources of the Empire.
And it just shows how serious he's being now. I mean, obviously, he was being serious before, but now it's like he's going to these places where Omega and Crosshair have been seen.
I mean, can you blame him? The Emperor literally just came to your facility to oversee things, tells you you're doing a great job. He leaves, and do you really want to report to the Emperor that you failed? So he's got a lot of pressure on him. Because I would not want to be on Palpatine's bad side.
Yeah. I mean, it says a lot that because we said that the leaders of various places in the Empire don't really go out first, but Hemlock's there. He's on the front line.
He's a different type. He's not the cowardice kind.
Yeah, he means business. He's got a goal. He's going to try and get reach it as fast as possible.
It's like another Thrawn, but milder.
Did you notice as well that I don't know if it was mentioned at the end of season 2, but Hemlock wears one glove.
I actually did not notice that.
I don't know whether it was just that he had taken one off and was too busy to take the other one off, or not. But I swear that he has just one glove on, and it's very reminiscent of sort of pre-survival suit Vader, as in like the Anakin Skywalker side, where it's the one glove and you can see the evil in him, but could there be good? No, because he just murdered a bunch of kids.
I don't know. I just looked it up and people are questioning it about it too. And one person said that he was immune to the sleep gas due to experiments, which he probably experimented on his hand. And so he keeps it up because he does massage his hand quite a bit. Now that you mention it.
I'm going to keep an eye on that. And
then someone's comment here is, I like this one a lot. Somebody's like, this is their theory. They're like, obviously a defective clone of Michael Jackson. Moonwalking his way to torturing clones. Oh, you gotta love Reddit.
Oh God, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. But again, just that added layer of mystery really adds to the...
Yeah, because they haven't mentioned it at all. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, because I mean, with again Anakin, we know that his hand gets cut off and gets replaced by a mechanical hand, hence the glove, and the same thing with Luke. It's unusual to see a character that's so prominent that we know really nothing about.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, even his Wikipedia page doesn't say anything other than he displayed a habit of holding and tending to his left hand, which was covered with a glove. So I'm curious if they're going to expand on that, because that is very interesting.
I'm hoping that they do, just because obviously it's the final season, and unless they're going to bring the character back in for something else, it's one of those questions that it would be good if they did answer it. But at the same time,
The mystery is fun.
The mystery.
Very, very interesting. Now I'm going to pay more attention to the future episodes and kind of see if he continues the habit.
Yeah.
Because I never paid attention to that.
See, I only picked up on the glove side of things. I didn't notice he holds his hand, because I thought it was just like a sort of general stance. If he stood up, I do it a lot where I put a hand in my other hand. I'm holding my hands either in front of me or behind my back, depending on how I'm stood. But because it's kind of like military-esque, you're brought to attention and all of that.
You're right. Yeah.
So now, if other people have picked up on it as well, that he's actually rubbing his hand, I'm gonna definitely keep an eye on it, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess that he probably lost his hand and he's wearing a glove to cover it up, kind of like Luke and Anakin did.
See, I was thinking that, but that was my initial thought. But then if people are saying that he's rubbing his hand,
phantom pain, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Or maybe it's just his hand is so scarred and deformed from experiments that he has to keep it covered up, and he rubs it just to kind of ease tension off of it. So he probably still has his hand. Maybe it's just really damaged.
Here's a thought then on that front. What about if he's got clones and that's where they've been taking the blood samples from?
Oh, we got another Moff Gideon on our hands.
Potentially. I mean, the Emperor himself did go to the facility and, was on about Project Necromancer and what's the best way to do basic tests is to use your own blood. And maybe looking back at episodes 1, 2, and 3 of this season, or especially 1 and 3, where their blood droplets are going into the clones' blood samples, that maybe that's Hemlock's blood and not the Emperor's.
Interesting. Maybe Hemlock is Snoke. I'm just kidding on that one.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me though if Hemlock was some form of clone of the Emperor, because as we know,
interesting.
There are clones out there, and if you can't use the Emperor's blood because he's the Emperor, I'm fairly certain he's not going to be sat there having being prodded and poked constantly. If Hemlock is a clone, it's going to be the same blood, and that's what they're testing. And that potentially could be the reason why he's wearing the glove, because he's getting the blood samples taken from his hand, but because there's so much of it, it's caused the pain, and that's why he's rubbing it, because it's potentially an open wound still.
That is very interesting. I just did a quick Google on it, and nobody's come up with that theory yet. So that's something we can look into.
I would say you've heard it here first, but by the time this comes out, this season.
That is true. That's true. This won't be released till August.
I mean, but so we're recording this, beginning of March. As the episodes come out, basically. So we, like we've said, we're seeing. This is our almost live reaction and live theories. We don't know what's going on yet. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of do a retrospective once the season's fully out, where we're like, actually, you know what? That theory was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I did that with Mandalorian first season 1 and 2. And at the end, did kind of like a collective thought of all the episodes and our final thoughts of the season, kind of like kind of exactly the way you just said it. So I'd be open to that. It's like Samsonite, I was way off.
Yep. You're like, yeah, I was. Everybody survived, and they're all off living happily ever after.
Yeah, Palpatine has them for lunch every Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, he actually does a really nice roast. So they get everybody together, and yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think because obviously this is like the third or fourth theory we've had now. I think going back and sort of, or what, like I say, once the season's finished and we know what happened, it'll be good to see where we were, if we was correct or not.
So cool stuff. So stay tuned, guys, because we're winging it.
Yes, we are.
But it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys don't mind our digressions too much, because we want to kind of implement a review, but also kind of a discussion of like how this fits in with other things and throwing in theories, because that makes it a lot more fun. And that's one of the main reasons why we're recording now, because after everything else that's already been released, we can't really throw in theories because we already know the answers. So this makes it fun. So guys, that's going to end it for this episode. So remember, come in next week and we'll be covering episode 5, and it's going to be very interesting just because of the tension that's being built at the end of episode 4. So come back next week and we'll discuss it. But before you guys go, just remember to head down to the description below. Check out our link tree. We've got our Instagram where we post a lot of cool memes and news. Also join our Discord where you can talk with other fans and join our community there. And if you want some cool merch, we are with entertainmentearth.com. So we got some licensed Black Series figures, lightsabers, a lot of cool stuff. And then we have our own t-shirt on Teespring. We've got a bunch of cool different designs that you guys might like. So take a look and buy it for yourself, or if there's any birthdays or anything coming up, think of your friends, see if they'll like it. So with that being said, we will catch you guys next week. May the Force
be with you
always.